Hi, welcome to Hunt Resin. In this video I'll be showing you how to make these beautiful Gypsophila bookmarks. These are real Gypsophila flowers with silver leaf underneath. I think they turned out really cute, I absolutely love them, and I'll be showing you how I do these. I do them in a couple of layers just so that it sets well and everything looks nice and there's not as many bubbles, and that the flower actually looks and sets really well and doesn't kind of disintegrate with the resin. I don't like leaving flowers in resin for too long. So I will be showing you how I do this. I also made a mistake whilst I was doing this and I overfilled it in the last layer, so it kind of overflowed over the mould. So I'll be showing you how I actually fixed this mistake using a deburrer and some UV resin. So a little bit of a fixing up kind of video at the same time, showing you how I do it and then how I can fix it. So you can always fix something, so there's never anything is wasted. So I do my first layer, which is resin and clear resin and some silver leaf. So I think it needs a wee bit more silver leaf, so I'm just popping a wee bit more in. I want it to have a decent amount but not be overshadowing the silver leaf in it, and I put about 10 mils in each of these, so not a lot of resin at all, 10 to 15, and I just pour them in and make sure I get right to the edges, get all the bubbles out, torch it, use a toothpick if I see any hairs or any sneaky bubbles in the corners, and make sure I get right to the edges and completely make sure that's all right, and then I let it set. So I let it set for you can let it set so it's a wee bit soft and sticky, so when you put the flowers on they don't move. So that's what I do, so probably about 5 to 6 hours. I just keep an eye on it and have a look. I don't want it to be super wet, but I don't want it to be super hard. So every resin is different with the timings, but I kind of know my resin now, so I can work out when to do it. And then I put on the flowers. But whilst I'm waiting for the flowers, for the resin to set and get sticky, I actually get the flowers sorted and I work out where I'm going to put it. So I'm going to show you how I do that as well. So here I have a piece of card that I've drawn around the mould and made a kind of template so I can put the flowers in. I know myself that this template's bigger than the actual mould because I can only go around it and it's got a little bit of a rim, so I know it needs to be smaller than what this is. So it's just an idea and a template just to get the design, but I always need to remember to make it smaller than it is. So here I have my flowers, these beautiful blue Gypsophila flowers that I did buy. I also do try and use my own flowers as well, so I actually have some white Gypsophila ones of my own, a mixture of all actually my own and ones I bought. So as you can see, I just work out the design and I use nail clip and scissors to cut the flowers. You have to be very, very gentle and careful. As you can see, I'm holding the flower down and then I cut it really, really gently where I want it to be. Even then, sometimes the heads can come off and the flowers can break a wee bit, which is a shame, but you can always fix it or put it in. My first flower, one of the flowers is off on the blue one. You'll see when I'm putting it in. Bookmark, one of the flowers is off, but you just pop it right next to it and you can't tell, so it's absolutely fine. So yep, I just cut all the flowers and make a nice design. You can do whatever you want, it's fun and it's creative to work out where you want to put things, and I really, really enjoy it. So I actually usually do this process slowly in the evening on the sofa and just have some fun with it. So now my resin's sticky, I start putting the flowers on. As you can see, this first flower here, one of the flowers is actually fallen off, so I'm going to pop that down and I'm going to put the flower right next to where the stem is. I use tweezers to put the flowers on, and I actually have the flowers above where I'm putting them on in the mould paper that I have, so I'll show you that so you can see. I just copy what is already on that and put them on slowly and neatly, so if you drop a flower, unfortunately it is sticky, so you have to be very, very gentle and careful when you're putting it down, but usually isn't too much of a hassle, and sometimes mistakes happen and they make them better, so can't complain about that. But yeah, pop all this on and then I actually let it set to be completely set now. I don't put the resin on until the next day usually. I just like it to be completely hard, I don't know why, but I think it's just to make sure that the flowers are completely set in the resin and that they're not going to move and the resin is nice and set and solid. And then I put on the top coat after that once I've let it set the next morning usually, and try and get all the bubbles out of that as well after that. So now the resin is set and it's the next day, I make up some resin and I put just as much as I need in it. You want to be able to cover all the flowers. The flowers do have like dips and stuff in them, so you need to make sure you cover them completely, and you go over it a couple of times and make sure that there's enough resin in there. I usually go over the flowers in the middle, and then I do the edges with the little tool I have, the little sculpting tool, and I just go around the edges and make sure that they're right up to it, and I make sure everything's covered. And then I also push down the flowers and make sure all the bubbles come out. I do this quite a lot of times because so many bubbles come out when it comes to flowers. There's always a hidden one, and yeah, it's constant, so you're always torching, always going over as many times as possible, and then making sure that you get as many as you can, and looking for little hairs that can get caught up in the flowers as well, all these little things that happen. So I leave them to set again. This is probably about 19 hours now. This is the next morning, and I did these in the afternoon. And as you can see, they spill over. So I had a little bit of an accident, a little bit of a mistake. So what you usually do would be use a bird tool to get rid of it. But when it comes to bookmarks and thin resin, or like smaller things, resin takes longer to set. So it's actually quite rubbery, the edges that have fallen out of the mould. So the tool isn't working, it's actually just kind of chewing it up, so it needs to be left to set for a longer period of time. As I said, because it's a smaller amount of resin, I haven't given it enough time. You can demould it, it's absolutely fine, but you need to wait for it to actually set. So I was going away for a couple of days, so I came back and it was completely hard. Because it was hard and it had overflown quite a bit, I had to use a Stanley knife just to get rid of a big amount of the chunk of the excess on the edges. So when you're using a Stanley knife, if you need to, always push it away from yourself, and yeah, be as careful as you can. Obviously, using sharp tools, you don't want to be dangerous. Don't put it anywhere near your legs. Make sure you have something that is, yeah, just be safe. Make sure you have something protecting yourself. Like I've got the table, I'm not doing it towards my legs, so there's major arteries or anything like that. Then once I got rid of the main bits, I managed to go over with a burring tool, and it worked really, really well. But because there was so much I had to take off, it actually did leave it a wee bit cloudy on the sides. The deburring tool is fantastic and usually doesn't leave the cloudy sides, but because there was so much and I had to use the Stanley knife, there actually was a wee bit of it there. So I'm going to show you how you can fix that using UV resin as well, so you don't have to use normal resin, because that would be an actual nightmare trying to do something so small with some epoxy resin, because it's thick and you need to cover the underneath so you don't get blobs and all that jazz, so no. So this is how I do the UV resin. So you can see there it's a bit cloudy on the edges, just at the top bit, and then in the underneath you can see that cloud. So I've got some UV resin, a UV lamp, and a little silicone cup to put the UV resin into, so I can use a little sculpting tool and I can use that to basically paint it on and make it nice and clear. So I'll show you how I do that. So I just do a little bit on the tip, you don't want too much, and then you can just kind of push it on and push it over the whole thing, and it instantly really does become quite clear. It's much clearer than it was, and it makes it look so much better, more professional, and it's so quick and easy to do, just to give it a quick touch up and a quick fix. So then I just do the whole of one side and make sure that it's completely even, and then put it under the UV lamp and for 90 seconds, and then I check it. I think 90 seconds isn't long enough with my UV lamp, so you can do it as many times as you need. You just, once it's been under the UV lamp, then you just check it, and if it's still sticky, then I would put it in for as many times as you can until it's not sticky anymore. That's kind of how I go by it. It's the same with when you're using UV for anything. If you take it out too soon, it'll cloud up and it's sticky, so then your fingerprints or whatever's on it will change the colour of it, which you don't want. So you just continue doing this as much as you need to, if you even need to. You might not be as silly as me and not let it overflow and overfill it. But yeah, you just keep on doing it and put it in as many times as I said before into the UV light, and make sure it's not sticky and all ready, and then you'll be able to use your bookmarks, which is going to be fantastic. So here they are, completely finished, real flowers encased in resin forever. I think they're really, really pretty and I love how they came out. You can do them with any kind of colour. I do them in gold and lots of different flowers as well, but that's basically the gist. And then the last finishing touches is putting in the tassel, the bookmark tassel. You always need that so you can grab your bookmark in your book. My way of doing it is from the front, pushing it through and then doing a little loop when it comes through, pulling that over the end of the tassel, and that just kind of creates a little knot and it's not really going to move too much after that. And that's how I do it, plain and simple, nice and easy. And then yeah, that's them all done, and I think they are really, really nice. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and learned how I do it. I mean, you might find better ways of doing it. Please let me know if you do in the comments. I love learning. I love learning new ways of doing things. I can go a roundabout way sometimes. I'm a bit dyslexic, so I can go a different way than other people do, and some people think it's backwards, but I think it's productive. But here they are, again, something plain and not the marble, so you can actually see through how clear they are and how pretty. So perfect gift for any loved one. But thanks for watching. See you later.